Welcome everybody to the first episode of Whole Lotta Glove. My name is Grayson Greiner, former South Carolina catcher and Detroit Tigers catcher. I'm really excited to start this show. I'll be talking to current and former South Carolina baseball players that have kind of shaped the program into what it is today. And I'm honored to have our first guest here today, Cole Messina. They only give us about 30, 45 minutes, so I can't list all your accolades.
So I kind of scuffled in the fall and, had a better back half of the fall, and me and Monty Lee were hitting one day, and he said, "Hey, what's one thing that's going to hold you out of the lineup?" And I was like, "I don't know. What's he trying to say here?" And he said, "It's your confidence." And ever since that day, I've, taken each round of BP, each at bat, each bullpen with a different level of confidence.
What has been your favorite memory playing at South Carolina? I know it's a tough question. A lot of good ones. You can give one or two, but things that really stick out in your head that you'll remember forever. Welcome everybody to the first episode of Whole Lotta Glove. My name is Grayson Greiner, former South Carolina catcher and Detroit Tigers catcher. I'm really excited to start this show. I'll be talking to current and former South Carolina baseball players that have kind of shaped the program into what it is today. And I'm honored to have our first guest here today, Cole Messina. They only give us about 30, 45 minutes, so I can't list all your accolades. All SEC, multi-time All-American, Johnny Bench Award winner, best catcher in the country. Third round pick of the Colorado Rockies, 77th overall. So Cole, thank you for being my first guest on the podcast. I've gotten to know you over the years. So tell everybody kind of what you're up to, how the first offseason's going.
It's going well. Hanging out in Columbia, working out at the school, doing all my hitting, all my catching, throwing.
Yep.
There's a couple pitchers back, which is nice. I can have a couple guys to catch throughout the offseason. But other than that, just, getting some hunting in and hanging out.
Who's back throwing?
Gainey.
Okay.
Garrett Gainey, Jack Mahoney, James Hicks actually just left.
Okay.
And then a couple older guys, TJ Shook and Cody Morris.
Yeah. Yep. I saw them over at the facility the other day. So a little bit, I get to see a little bit the last couple of years. Is Gainey's bullpen's as intense as he is on the mound?
Correct.
Really?
Yes, it is. When James was here, I was throwing with Gainey every day, and it's intensity from the first throw to the last pitch. This is how
what
he
gets
is.
him going. Yeah, that's awesome.
So
let's just start at the beginning. So born and raised in Somerville. I believe that's correct.
That's right.
Born and raised in Somerville, South Carolina kid. Did you grow up in an athletic family? Grow up Gamecock fans? Kind of where did your love for baseball come from?
Kind of the whole thing. Grew up, watching the national championship teams. Grew up wanting to play at South Carolina. Obviously was fortunate enough to be able to play at South Carolina, which was, a dream come true. But, my brother and sister, they both play sports. My brother's obviously with the Blue Jays. He got drafted as well. And then my sister is a volleyball player. So, always been kind of around sports. And, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to play at South Carolina, and here we are.
Made it happen.
Yeah.
What was it like watching your brother go through that process? That had to be
that was
unique experience.
Yeah, that was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Yeah.
I felt bummed for him, after day two. Didn't really know what was going to happen. And everyone was kind of, stepping on eggshells, you could say.
Yeah.
But, it worked out. He's happy, seems to be enjoying it. So no complaints on my end.
Well, we'll get to that later with you. But, for those that don't know, the draft experience it's one of the craziest things you can ever go through. But
right.
You were ranked the number one catcher coming out of South Carolina, number 8 overall player. South Carolina Baseball Player of the Year. I got all these accolades written down about you, but take us through the recruiting process. All right, so we got the draft, but before that, you got the recruiting process. Were you a guy that was like, once South Carolina offers, I'm committing, not talking to anybody else? Did you look around the Southeast? How did that work for you?
My intentions were go to South Carolina. Mm-hmm. That's where I wanted to go. That's where I wanted to be, but I wasn't sold on if they offer, I'm committing there. That's how it worked out. They ended up offering, I forget the day, but I think 30 minutes later I committed. Yeah. That's where I wanted to be. I was talking to other schools. I was talking to Clemson. I was talking to Citadel, College of Charleston a little bit. But, it was pretty simple recruiting process, honestly. Coach Current, he's gone now, but came and recruited me. In high school, I had Daniel Lloyd, who's with the Orioles, on my high school team, so they came and watched him pitch. And simple as that.
Yeah. Tell us about your Somerville high school team. I know y'all went to the state championship your senior year. Any names that we would recognize on that team?
There's a ton.
Yeah. Your brother, obviously.
Yeah, Carson, PJ Morlando was a first round draft pick this past year as well. Aiden Hunter, who's pitching at College Charleston. Lane Tobin, who's going to be the shortstop at Citadel this year. Shoot, there's a ton of other guys I can name, but I mean, I've played with a lot of guys before that last team that I was on. So I mean, guys like Daniel Lloyd, Brody Hopkins, both professional baseball players now. So played with a ton of good athletes in high school.
Well, Somerville's always been and always probably will be a great athletic school, and a baseball school. I hope. When I was growing up, I just remember who's the legendary football coach that was there for
Coach McKissick.
Yeah, I mean AJ Green, state championship after state championship. So it's an athletic school. But so now get through high school, get to South Carolina. Freshman year doesn't maybe go the way you want it to go. Only 30 at bats. Yeah. That was kind of the year after that year was the year we met. I came down and helped work a catcher clinic with you. The main thing that stuck out to me was going into your sophomore year, you had the utmost confidence that you were going to kind of win that starting job. And we'll get to your sophomore and junior years, which is really where you came onto the scene. But that freshman year, how did you kind of handle that process? Because you go from a superstar in high school, think you're number one catcher in the state, you got a good chance to come in and be the starter, and it doesn't go the way you want it to go.
Well, I mean, it was a learning curve for me because I don't want to sound like that guy, but never really dealt with failure.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was my first taste of real, true failure.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it took time. It took, talking to my parents, them telling me it's going to be okay because, I mean, I've never dealt with it before. So, I mean, it was definitely kind of a whirlwind, but, ended up going to summer ball that summer and kind of figured it all out again, got my confidence back, felt like returned to the player that I was in high school and just kind of kept going with it ever since.
Yeah. You played behind a guy, Colin Burgess, who went on to play pro ball. What was y'all's relationship like? Did you learn a ton from him? Were y'all good buddies? It's a unique situation because every other position, infield, outfield, pitchers, there's 8, 10, 12 guys. Catcher, it's usually you and one other guy. And one guy's the starter, one guy's the backup. So it's a very unique relationship. I've gone through it many times in my career. What was y'all's relationship like?
Our relationship was, I mean, he's like a brother to me. Yeah. I mean, we still talk pretty much, every once a week, twice a week now. Yeah. But, I mean, he was great. Some people would say Burgess is a little intense, but I'm okay with it. I think he had all the right intentions. And, he always looked after me. He still does. Still send him some videos on some things, and he gives me tips and pointers. But, we're good friends, and hopefully it stays the same, I guess.
I didn't get to see much of that year. I was still playing at the time, but just looking the little bit I did get to see, he kind of, I mean, you called him intense. He seemed a little bit like a goofball to me. I mean, is that some of his antics and quirks, is that an accurate depiction? Or?
That's accurate. He's a goofball, but, when it comes down to it, he's intense, and I think he wants the best for everyone. So.
Yeah, and that freshman year didn't go the way y'all wanted it to go. You individually, as a team, either didn't make the postseason. You get to the sophomore year, complete breakout season, right? As a team, y'all make it to the Super Regionals, lose to Florida, but your numbers that year, 307, 17 home runs, 65 RBIs. Those are career numbers for me. You did it in 1 year. Third team All-American. And, talk about your mindset when you get to campus in the fall. What did you tell yourself? Say, hey, I'm gonna kind of take over this year.
So I kind of scuffled in the fall and, had a better back half of the fall. And me and Monty Lee were hitting one day, and he said, hey, what's one thing that's going to hold you out of the lineup? And I was like, I don't know. Like, what's he trying to say here? And he said, it's your confidence. And ever since that day, I've, taken each round of BP, each at bat, each bullpen with a different level of confidence, knowing that I'm supposed to be where I am, supposed to be playing with the people I play with. So other than that, I mean, that team was very, very special and probably my favorite team I've played on. That team was just very close, had a lot of really good players on it, but also really good dudes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it brought the best out of me. It brought the best out in plenty of those guys, and they would all tell you that too.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the word confidence. I would argue confidence in the sport of baseball is probably any other sport the most important, right? Because you're going to fail way more than you're going to succeed. And sometimes you just have to manufacture that confidence. Even if you're not playing well, you got to tell yourself you're the best player on the field. And it was awesome to see what you did that year watching from afar. And, the numbers I read there, those are offensive numbers, but that's 10% of how important it is when you play the catcher position. Talk about your first time really getting to handle an entire pitching staff, kind of start to finish, working with the pitching coach, working with all those pitchers.
So the pitching coach that year was Coach Parker, and me and him have a great relationship still. So he made it super easy on the transitional side of, being the starting catcher, being the guy that people are going to look to when, stuff's hitting the fan. So, it was easier than I think most people, but I got lucky in a sense. I feel like with him, he made it 10 times smoother than, maybe a guy that does not have a good enough relationship with, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So.
Well, talk me through, because we didn't have this when I was playing. When I was playing, you called fastball here. You looked over, you looked at the wristband, you got a card. What is the new technology like as far as the calling a game, calling pitches to your pitcher? Y'all are on the same page. Because I had called a couple games for SEC Network this year. I saw y'all looking at the watches. So just enlighten the people on how that process works. Because generally, as a catcher, you got about 15 seconds or so. Now we got the pitch clock. Look over, get your sign, think about your first and third defense, think about your bunt defense, think about what the hitter's strengths are, pitcher's strengths are. Does that watch and all that make all that kind of go away?
I think it does. I think the watch is the best thing for the sport. But all it is the coaches have a little button key, you could say, and they just press a button, and it could be fastball away, and it comes up on the wristband. Everyone on the field sees it. The pitcher hears it in his hat and ready to rock and roll. It clears everything up for the players and the coaches too. It's making sure guys relay the signs correctly and whatnot. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, you got a short taste of it this past year, but those days are kind of out the window. You got to call your own game going forward, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But taking that thought process out and not having to, I didn't call the pitches in college either, but it was still a little bit more of a give and take with the pitch coach. Now it's just, this is what we're throwing. You just sit back there and catch it. So it's a little different. Talk us through that Gainesville Super Regional. All right. First taste of a Super Regional, the environment, the pressure, 2 wins away from Omaha. Take us through that.
It was a whirlwind too.
Yeah.
That environment, props to Florida. They made it hard for us to play. I think we drew the bad end of the stick there, the straws there. But it was definitely different. Everyone was, a little bit more focused, a little bit more energized, a little bit more bought into the games. And, they beat us fair and square. There ain't nothing, there's no sugarcoating it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they go on to play for the national title? Did they win the national title?
No, they lost to LSU.
Lost LSU? Yeah, went on to play for it. They were loaded. The only guy I can remember is the big left-handed hitter and pitcher. But I'm sure Florida just churns out pros year after year. But so sophomore year ends. Did you play summer ball?
I didn't. I was banged up a little bit. I had to reset.
So you come back junior year now. A lot of guys, I've seen it dozens of times, let the pressure of their junior year draft season get to them. You did the polar opposite. Each of your numbers increased: 326, 21 home runs, 71 RBIs. Same thing, all SEC, all American. You won the Johnny Bench Award, which is kind of the Heisman Trophy for catchers, essentially. Incredible year. How did you not let that pressure get to you? Is it something you thought about? When I went through it, I tried not to think about it, but in the back of your mind, people like you and me, we dream of playing at Carolina, but most people dream of playing in the big leagues. So you got that in the back of your mind. How did you block that out and really focus on the task at hand?
It was hard. I think in the beginning of the year, beginning of the season, the first 6-7 weeks, I was, thinking about it too much. That's all I cared about. Each at bat, I was living and dying by it, and kind of started spiraling down. And then one night, me and my roommate Talmadge Lecroy were sitting there, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to finish above 300. I was like, I'm going to do it. Screw it. I'm going to do it. And he was like, it's going to be tough. You're not really hitting good right now.
That sounds like a bad roommate.
But no, he's great. He's awesome. Yeah. No disrespect, Talmadge. But he's like, I try to go for 280, 275. I'm like, all right, we can do that. Yeah. And ever since that night, he'll tell you to this day, I just stopped caring in a sense. I just said, you know what, I'm going to have fun. If it's going to be my last year of college baseball, I want to go out having fun. That I cared about my teammates, cared about my coaches, and we fought hard. And I believe that's what we did. And haven't really looked back at it, and here we are.
Awesome. Let's talk about. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about your postseason performance. Watched it on TV. It was unconscious, right? 5 home runs, 16 RBIs. I believe it is a SEC tournament record. 16 RBIs in 5 games. Did the ball just look like a beach ball, or did you black out? I don't know if you'll ever go on a streak like that again. I hope you go on many streaks like that,
Me too.
or if you've been on one prior. But talk a little bit about that tournament, and then we'll get into the regional performance.
Well, the weekend before at Tennessee, I felt good. Felt like I had a decent weekend, and we get to the SEC tournament, and I was like, once again, hey, you got to win the first game to keep playing. So it was once again, leave it all out there, have fun, and the ball did kind of look like a beach ball a little bit, but other than that, just tried to do what my team needed. Just didn't try to do too much. Tried to put the ball in play when I needed to. Try to take a bigger swing when I needed to.
Yeah.
And I kind of blacked out. Like that's another thing is I get so caught up in the games that I kind of forget the big moments. So I don't remember pitch location. There's some guys that remember what time it was, and I don't even know how the time during the game. But
I don't know how guys do that. I mean, they recall what pitch they hit when they were 8 years old. I can't remember any of that stuff. It sounds like you're the same way.
I just kind of black out. And
the 2-run home run against James Madison. I forget where I was when I was watching it, but I said aloud to whoever I was with, I said, they gotta walk him here. They can't pitch to him, because it was kind of, you were at the end of the SEC tournament streak. This was the first game after the SEC tournament, correct? I said, you got to walk him right here. Was Ethan hitting after you or before you that game?
No, he was before me.
Before,
that game.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably even more the reason I said you got to walk him right here, because if you got that guy hitting behind you, and that moment, just take us through that. That was one of the biggest swings of the year, probably one of the biggest swings of your career.
Yeah, definitely.
Believe it was down to the last out, maybe the last strike. Walk us through that.
So I realized, what was at stake here. There was a chance for a walk-off, or there was a chance to lose a game. But just told myself in the box, take a deep breath, try to stay on top of the ball, have fun.
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose. It is what it is. You can't rely on you to hit the homer. Yeah. And threw me a first pitch slider. Felt like I took a good swing. Thought I got out in front a little bit. And I was running, and all of a sudden it went over, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's the coolest thing I've ever done." But just try to breathe, try to control the emotions, try to stay in the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I brought up the name Ethan Petrie. Right, talk about that guy. Y'all were kind of the Bash brothers of South Carolina baseball for 2 years. Whether you were hitting before him, after him, it was really cool to see. I can't remember the last time. There's been 2 hitters hitting back-to-back that had that much power, got on base that much. Talk about him as a player, as a person, as a teammate. And South Carolina fans are lucky enough to get to watch him for, I'll say, at least one more year.
Oh, yeah.
For one more year, he's going to get drafted. Pretty high
You're
this
right.
year.
He's a freak.
Yeah.
He's one of the best dudes I've ever met. He's, down to earth. He cares about you. He, pick you up when you're down. He's, always making jokes in a sense where everyone thinks he's a goofball, but it's just who he is. Mm-hmm. He always is trying to have fun, keep people loose. But as a baseball player, it's a complete different story. When it's time to play, he's engaged. He's caring about winning, and I think that's what helps him the most. Is he cares so much about winning, not so much about what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I think that just the numbers reflect that. He's not going up there thinking, oh, what if I strike out here? Blah blah blah. He's my team needs a ground ball to second base. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him special in my eyes.
Yeah.
And
y'all flip-flop sometimes in the order, whether you're in front of him. Which one did you prefer? Because on one hand, he's probably on base and you're hitting with runners on base. On the other hand, you're going to get great pitches to hit because nobody wants to face him. Which one did you really think about that?
I liked hitting after him.
Yeah.
Just in a sense, because when he hit the Skeens home run and I was on deck, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And coolest thing I've ever seen in person. And, it was always fun watching him take at bats before me, just because it gave me a boost of confidence seeing that guy do damage on the pitcher's best pitch.
Yeah,
it's like, you know what, you can do it too.
Yeah,
why not you?
And you had the best seat in the house. You
exactly.
were the closest to him.
That was awesome. And it was always great hitting behind that guy. He's one of a kind.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes in the draft, see what he does this year. Hopefully, he handles the pressure as well as you do. I'm sure he will. He's just been a joy to watch. But alluded to it earlier, draft night, right? You got drafted in the 3rd round, so that means day 2. I went through the very same thing. I was round 3, thought maybe day 1, 1st or 2nd round, and it broke me. I wept. I thought I was going to go top 2 rounds, first day of the draft. It's just something you can have the rest of your life. Talk about the emotions of that day. Where were you? Who were you with? Did you have an inkling of who might take you or where you might go? Just talk about that experience a little bit.
So like you said, had the thought, had the idea of potentially going day 1. Doesn't happen. Everyone's upset, bummed out. But, my family was there. My friends were there. A bunch of people were there. And had an idea that the Rockies, were interested, just from meetings and scout talks and all that stuff, but wasn't 100%, locked in on the Rockies are drafting you. Yeah. But, after round 2, the Rockies and my agents were in contact.
Our agents.
Yeah, our agents, sorry. They were in contact and, came up with a number. And so I actually got to go to sleep a little bit better than I imagined, because I knew that when the Rockies had to pick in the 3rd round, I was getting drafted. So that was a good feeling going into the night, and then woke up and just waited. It was a waiting game. So
y'all have a little celebration, or where you pack the bags and let's get out to Arizona? What was the timing of when you got drafted to when you kind of got out there and got the process started?
I got drafted on a Monday, because the draft starts Monday. And I flew out that Friday.
Okay.
So, but it wasn't, there wasn't really a celebration. There was people over at the house. They were coming over, when they get off work on Monday, and obviously with Carson, my brother. So everyone was kind of in and out. It wasn't like a one big party ordeal, but we got to see people, got to thank people for everything they did for us, which was really key for me and my brother.
Oh yeah, I mean people don't realize how many people go into one person achieving one of their dreams, right? It's a culmination of however old you are, 20 years of hard work in one day, and then it all starts over.
That's right.
So it's clean slate now. You're off to pro ball. Talk about your first half season. It is completely different than college. You play every single day. You're playing in front of nobody. Give the listeners an idea of kind of what that experience is like, and how a month prior you were playing in front of sold out stadiums at Founders Park or wherever in the SEC or the SEC tournament. Talk about that experience mentally, physically, how you think it went.
I mean, it was way different. Like you said, everyone's really, really good. Not a lot of people in the stands, and it's a business. Yep. So, I mean, it's completely different. But, I actually lucked up. Our high A team was, first in the division for both halves, which was good. So we were making the playoffs. Was going to be on a playoff team right away. So knew that going in with going in, I knew that, so it helped, ease the nerves a little bit, I guess you could say. All right, this team has fun. They play hard. They win.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was different. You got to do your own scouting reports now. You got to call your own game out, which is another topic for another time.
Yep.
But, it was fun. We ended up winning the league championship, so that was
awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah. So, lucked up, you could say.
Yeah. Individually, how'd you play? I haven't kept up.
Probably a good thing. No, I played all right. Caught well. Made good relationships with the pitchers. Didn't swing it best, but
I mean, like you said, every Friday night guy that you face in the SEC, he's just another guy in pro ball.
Literally.
When you're in the SEC, people always say, "Oh, the SEC is like double A." It ain't even close,
shot.
right?
No
SEC
shot.
is probably low to high A, if I had to guess.
Correct.
So you're going through that process, and the other challenge you have is in college. I mean, it is 100%, 200% all about winning, right? You get to pro ball and you get the minor leagues. It's still about winning, but it's also about development, individual development, and selfishly, it's about getting to the major leagues, right? So, did they talk to you all about that, or how did you internally balance, or going into a winning situation, was it still all about winning, or were you more like, all right, now I'm a business of one, I'm trying to get to the next level?
I think going in, he was like, all right, it's a business now, whatever. You got to make sure you get to the big leagues as fast as possible. But I think as I, got sent to Spokane to high A, I think I switched my mindset more of, you play at your best when you're trying to win, when you're trying to help your teammates, win no matter what the score is. So I think that's what I took into it at the start, and tried to keep it, steady throughout the entire month I was there. So, you guess you could say that I was still trying to win a little bit.
Yeah.
Still competitive at the end of the day.
Yeah. Was that the furthest you'd been from home?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about
I was not
geographically, I think, about as far as humanly possible as you could get from Somerville, South Carolina.
Far away from home.
What has your focus been this offseason? Has it been maintaining your offense, improving your defense, nutrition, mobility, flexibility? What's kind of been your focus, or not all of it?
It's like I told you already. It was, maintaining the offense, getting back to, what I do best of spinning the ball at all fields, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Improving the defense, obviously there's a lot of – catching is an evolving art.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's something new every day. And, that was, straightening that out, getting it smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Nutrition was a big thing, tried to slim down a little bit, want to play around 220, 225, that area. So that was a big thing. Obviously, mobility, that's a necessity regardless of what time of year it is. So, yeah, just kind of trying to take in as much this offseason, so when I get my first full offseason after a first full year, I know, what I need, what I don't need.
Yeah. Kind of the jump you make from freshman to sophomore year is very similar in pro ball. Your first off season after your first half season it pales in comparison to what you're going to know after your first full season and your full first off season. So you'll kind of develop your own routine and all that. But what were your first impressions of the Rockies organization? The folks you talked to, the facilities, all that.
No complaints.
Yeah.
Everyone was super cool, super personable, which I appreciate. They don't care all about baseball in a way. Like they care about who you are too, which is great.
Yeah.
They know what they're talking about. They're all really smart. They all can answer your stupid questions if you want. So
they're signing your check, so you can't say anything too bad anyways.
It's on camera, so I'm just kidding.
So we've kind of gone through your whole career from youth to where you are now. Going to get into some more miscellaneous questions. Baseball has changed so much in the last decade. What are your thoughts on analytics and how it's placed in the game? Would you consider yourself more old school? Like when you're training, do you like the Rapsodo and the blast and all that, or are you more old school or a little bit of a mix?
I think I'd say a mix. Like I think when the game starts, it's time to play. I think it's time to go up there with your swing, with your pitches, and just compete.
Yeah.
But I think in a sense, using the analytics maybe in an off season or maybe in the cages before a game is okay. Maybe also using it as like a checkup throughout the season, making sure your numbers are good, your chase rate, your end zone contact, that stuff. But yeah, I guess I'd say like kind of in the middle. Like it's not leaning one hard way or the other.
Yeah,
just
I'm very similar. I think it can be such a tool you can use in the cage when you're training, but when you get in between the white lines, if you they call it paralysis by analysis, you can really overwhelm yourself. But kind of brings me to my next point. As a catcher, you are overexposed to so many data points. What this guy slugs in this quadrant of the zone, what he does in this count. Talk a little bit about your first exposure to scouting. I'm sure you had scouting reports in Carolina, but a lot of the times the pitching coach will kind of do the scouting report for you and take care of it. You get to pro ball, it is all on you. And when you get to the big leagues, hopefully you do it in a year or two or even sooner, it's binders that big on your seat. You got to do a scouting report for an entire team, give a presentation of the pitchers. Talk a little bit about, your exposure to that and how you approach it.
It was definitely new. Obviously, you said, the college coaches are doing it for you. But I had somewhat of a sense. Coach Williams, who's not here anymore, was kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, kind of keep me in the loop of scouting reports, you could say, and kind of show me, what to look for, where to look for it, all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't, new, but in a sense it was, just because, I was doing it by myself. I was having to learn hitters in, a 3-hour, 4-hour span on the bus ride or, the morning before. So just it was hard, trying to balance how much time, obviously, but you want to get away too, but you don't want to, leave your pitcher stranded on an island.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the hardest thing, was balancing it. But other than that, it ain't rocket science in a way. Like you just got to put the time in, understand what go with your gut, and Just attack the plane with the pitcher and, hope for the best.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of times people say you'd much rather know your pitcher's strengths than know the opponent's weaknesses, because you can really psych yourself out if you just focus on their weaknesses. But any of the new rule changes or technologies, were those in Spokane, whether it be the automated strike zone, pitch comm? Was any of that out there?
No.
I'm curious if you had exposure to it.
The only, I guess, new thing you could say is the pitch clock, but I mean, it's been around.
Y'all had that in South Carolina, right?
We've had it for 2 or 3 years.
So let's talk a little bit about the SEC. Elite of the elite, best players in the whole country. It's been proven by draft numbers, by national championships, by everything. Who were some of the guys that really stuck out to you, whether they were pitchers that you faced or whether they were players that you had to game plan against? I mean, we could probably talk about this for 10, 15 minutes. But give us some names that you see him walk on the field and you're like, that guy's a big leaguer.
Yeah, there's a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say it. You said it. We could talk about it for 10 minutes. But obviously, you got your Paul Skeens, Hurston Waldrop, who big league with the Braves this past year, Christian Moore, Caglione, Ryan Prager from A&M, Laviolette from A&M, Grahovac from A&M.
Montgomery
from A&M, Blake Burke from Tennessee, Billy Amick from Tennessee. Pretty much that whole Tennessee lineup last year is a chance to be big leaguers. I think they're all, elite of the elite. But I mean, you look at that, but you look at the guys we had.
Yeah.
I think that kind of puts it into perspective. It ain't, they're so much better than you. It's you just it comes down to, who performs better.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I mean, South Carolina has just as many pro guys, just as many big leaguers. So, a little bit of a lighter topic here. Where does the nickname Moose come from?
So, funny story. So, one of my best friends growing up ever, his name is Drew Lloyd, Daniel Lloyd's younger brother.
Okay.
He played with us in a scrimmage when we were 9 years old. First time I've ever met him, first time I ever met his dad. And I catch a pop-up at first base. And he's like, "Let's go, Moose." And ever since that day, it's stuck.
Really?
Ever since that day.
I don't know where I thought it would come from, but that's not what I was expecting.
That's the story right there. It's stuck ever since.
The tattoo here.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah. So off topic here, but talk a little bit about kind of the changing landscape of college athletics, college baseball with NIL, transfer portal. I mean, you were a guy that, your freshman year, you got 30 at bats. A lot of guys would have been like, "I'm out of here. I'm going to go play somewhere else." What are your thoughts on kind of the freedom to change schools? Obviously, college baseball, you're not going to have the $10 million NIL, but guys have the ability to make a little bit of money to help them survive, help them eat. So, what are your thoughts just in general on it?
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think, in a sense, it's nice for the players because you don't know what their home life is. You don't know what they've came from, but then again, I feel like there's also no loyalty. It's not so much team anymore. I feel like there's a lot of selfishness in a way. But then again, if Joe Schmo from, nothing wants to go play for more money, you can't blame him. He's trying to, make a better life for him and his family. Yeah. So I just think it's a double-edged sword, and I get mixed emotions about it. I feel like there's a lot more good than bad.
Yeah.
Just because, people can make money for themselves. But then again, you look at teams and, they're not as close anymore. There's, people leaving revolving door, in the locker room. So
I think it makes sense for guys that, aren't playing maybe 1 or 2 years, haven't played much at all. They want to go play. They might not have a pro career. They want to play college baseball. But, when you see guys that are starters, good starters, and then they leave, it kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit. But
exactly.
What has been your favorite memory playing at South Carolina? I know it's a tough question. A lot of good ones. You can give 1 or 2, but things that really stick out in your head that you'll remember forever.
I'll go top 3. Winning the regional at home was definitely one. That was the coolest thing I've ever been a part of. 2 was probably the homer against Clemson in Greenville.
That's always fun.
Yeah, that was will always be up there. And then 3, I have to give it to Petrie against Skeens. I think that was like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, that was.
Moment.
I don't know if there's a video, but there's a video. I'm like this the whole time. I'm like, holy moly, he's crazy.
What will you miss the most about playing there?
I just think the guys.
Yeah.
I think I've made some of my best friends. I've made people that are going to be at my wedding, people that are going to be at my funeral. Hopefully not soon, but no, I mean, I've met great people, been around a lot of great athletes, great people, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
I got good news for you. That does remain the case. I mean, my closest friends are guys I played with at Carolina, so it's not a cliche. It truly is. You know, when you hear people say it's the best 3-4 years of your life, it really is. Mm-hmm. So, talk a little bit about playing in front of Founders Park fans, Carolina fans. Good or bad, they're always passionate. Talk about some of those thoughts and memories.
Keyword, they're passionate.
Yeah.
So if you're playing bad, they're
bad.
They're gonna let you know, and if you're playing good, they're gonna let you know. But I wouldn't change it for the world. They continue to show up when we deserve fans to show up. You could say, and they've always been great to me, my family. Obviously there's social media now, so everyone gets freaked out and says things, and it is what it is. Yeah. But I ain't got no complaints. Yeah. And they show up, they represent, they're passionate. That's all you can ask for.
100%. Coach Lee. All right, I saw you post a picture of y'all hunting the other day. Your relationship with him, I've known Coach Lee since I got hitting lessons with him when I was 10 years old. One of the most respected guys in the whole baseball community. Talk about him as a person, as a coach. What makes him so successful and so respected?
That's my guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say it, he's like my second dad. Especially when I was at college, away from my parents, he's always looking out for his players. That's what I admire the most about him is he's always looking after his players. He's always caring about players other than baseball. I think he puts in countless hours. Obviously, he's high energy. He's high concentration on, the goals at task and I guess that's the right word to say. But he's bought in. I think that's the easiest way to put it. He's bought into who you are, how you play, who you are on the field, who you are off the field. So, I mean, I have no complaints. I mean, I told him, the last game of the year after we lost to JMU, I said, man, you changed my life. Mm-hmm. And I want you to know that. And I hope that sticks with you because you really did. Yeah. When I told the story earlier about, how he sat me down in the cages and said, hey, you just need to play with confidence. That changed my life forever, and I'll forever be in debt to him.
Yeah, it seems like he genuinely cares about his players, and he doesn't go through the motions. He's a guy I feel like if you called him at 4 a.m. said I want to go hit, he'll see you in 10 minutes.
That's
right. He's one of the best there is in the game. What does Cole Messina like to do for fun? Just hobbies, interests. I know you like to hunt, outdoorsman. What's the off season been like? Obviously, you got to balance your training, but the beautiful thing about being a pro baseball player is once you get your training done, you don't have a job.
Free.
You're free in the off season. You work for 8-9 months, but then you get 3 months to do what Cole Messina likes. So, what are some of your hobbies?
I mean, like an outdoorsman. I like to hunt, like to fish, like to hang out with my family, hang out with friends, hang out with my dogs. Got 2 dogs. I mean, that's it. I mean, I live a simple life. That's what I like to tell people. If I'm not at the baseball field, I'm probably in the woods somewhere. I actually got a chance to go deer hunt in Texas in December. And then me, my brother, my uncle, and my dad are going to Arkansas the 25th this coming month, try and kill some ducks before we leave for spring training. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. Not a whole lot.
That's awesome. Well, that's about all I got for you. It's been awesome getting to know you. I guess we met would have been right after your freshman year.
Yeah.
I got done playing. Got to watch you these last 2 years. It's been awesome. You're one of the best South Carolina catchers ever, and I'm hopeful I get to fly out to Colorado and see you soon, hit some in Coors Field. But I want to thank you for being my first guest on Whole Lotta Glove, and that'll be it for the first episode, and I look forward to the next one.